Continuing.
Now, Simon, I am excited about this next segment because,
you should be.
Well, it is all about condos and you're going to give great tips and advice. But before we get going, I want to remind our listeners, please keep the questions coming. So realestatetalkshow.ca, we do read each and every one of them. We make sure we get back to you, or we have the experts, they will get back to you. And of course, we try and cover all of them here on air. So keep them coming because we do appreciate it. You really help to shape this show. Now, condos, we've been getting an abundance of questions. So I'm going to put you in the hot seat, Simon,
Sure.
because of course I'm going to ask you those questions. And I think we'll both agree that, of course, condo market, it's vibrant here in the GTA. It really is a separate type of real estate. You have to have expertise in it. A lot of people might say that they service condos, but and you talk all the time about the difference between realtors that do and realtors that don't. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, first of all, when we talk about the condo market, you have to remember there's a ton of micro markets. So if you don't know the Harbourfront, you don't know the Harbourfront.
Yeah.
If you don't know Square One, you don't know Square One. If you don't know Midtown Toronto to find the right condos, you really, really don't. So just like any other aspect of real estate, you need to know the nitty gritty of the inside information for the little micro markets.
Okay.
Because I look at condo buildings, like each one being its own little neighborhood
It's true.
with its own little vibe.
Yeah.
You go into some and they're mismanaged. Security is not friendly. They're there to keep you out rather than to support the homeowners and guests.
They don't want you to sell.
Well, they don't want you to sell. They make it impossible for realtors to get in when you're selling, and make it impossible when you're buying. You want to come in. I mean, think about it. If you're looking at condos, you want to buy, and you walk in, and it's just Mr. Surly security guy, and their job is to just make life miserable. Then
I'd be walking right back out. Just saying.
So, that's not where I want to live.
Yeah.
I want to be in a friendly, inviting neighborhood, and that's really how you got to the first step.
Okay, well, I look forward to this because you're going to give some great advice. So let's start with the first one. Is there actually a surplus of condo inventory or a shortage in the GTA?
Yes and no, because again, you look in certain areas, you've got an overabundance of supply. I don't want people in Mississauga to get mad at me, but for example, in the Square One district, there's a lot of supply right now, and it's going to take a while for the market to absorb that. The banks concern themselves with GTA statistics. But if I'm a buyer or a seller, I want to know the area where I'm buying. Like we're talking, a 1 kilometer radius. What's going on? How many buyers? How many sellers? Another way to look at it is how many sales were there and how many listings. So we look at the sales to listing ratio.
Yep.
And right now there's a much higher amount of listings in certain pockets. Square One is one of them. North York is another one we talk about. But even North York, we're talking about the Yonge Street corridor from Shepherd to Finch to Steeles. As you go further north, there's less and less inventory available. And as anybody who's out there looking at condos knows, there may be a lot of listings, but there's very few exceptional suites that have a nice layout, the right building, good views, good condition. So although you have a little bit of choice, there's not as many nice suites. Now, you look at other areas, downtown east, for example, St. Lawrence Market, or you look at the Harbourfront, there's still a shortage.
Multiple offers.
Yeah, multiple offers on the prime suites. You got a Lakeview unit under $700,000 with a balcony, parking, and a good layout. They're all over it, and it sells quickly. Midtown is another example.
Let's talk to our listeners, of course, more in cottage country. I mean, in Barrie and Aurelia, there's what we call apartment conversions into condos, and there's new condos that are actually going up.
Absolutely.
And I would never have thought in a million years would happen. They wouldn't put them up if there wasn't a demand for it, correct?
Well, absolutely. I mean, what we like to remind people about is this. When a crane goes up, they've already been pre-sold. When they've started construction, they've already been pre-sold. So the construction doesn't even start unless there's a demand and there's a sale.
That's right. So they've already had to have it pre-sold.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I think people, again, forget about. They get so worried seeing all those cranes, and then they're wondering, well, how possibly can these all be built up? We're going to have, and let me use that word, of course, right? We're ready for a bubble.
Yeah.
So please explain, are we really ready for a bubble, Simon?
Well, at the risk of sounding redundant, because we talk about this ad nauseum, if we're looking at the GTA market, first of all, we're looking at a market that's growing by 100,000 people a year as predicted by StatsCan for the next 10 years. What that means is every year, Erin, there's 40,000 new households. Now, a good percentage of them, maybe 25, 30% buy in the first year or two that they're here, but the other 70% are still renting, and in both cases, increasing demand for housing. So when we had a record-setting year of condo sales recently with 40,000 new condos sold, think about this, record-setting year, and we only dealt with 1 year's population growth.
Yeah, amazing.
So in certain pockets, we're actually predicting a shortage, and we're going to see a little bit more aggressive price growth. But right now in the GTA as a whole, it's still pretty balanced, and prices are increasing slowly.
All right, so Simon, let's go and focus on the buyer side. So there was a question, of course, from a listener saying, what are some things buyers should consider when looking to purchase a condo?
Well, I think first of all, you need to get a sense of what's available in your market for your budget.
Okay.
Number one, and you can look online, but it really doesn't help until you get out there and get started looking. So, if, for example, you look at your budget, you start searching with your realtor, and you identify that there's potentially 5 or 6 or 7 buildings that are in your market area, then I would first research who are the builders, what's the history of the building, and it's relatively easy for your agent to help you with this research, and shortlist it.
Okay.
And look at other things like maintenance cost per square foot, and this way you can quickly eliminate some buildings, because some people may look at an older building that has more square footage for the money, but the maintenance fees are dramatically higher. So you understand the numbers first.
Okay.
Number two, look at the builders and the history and so on, and look at the resale values in that building. Then go look at 1 or 2 in each of the buildings to eliminate the ones that you maybe wouldn't like. Think about things like visitor parking, access to shopping, and so on. Because with a condo, you don't have the maintenance you have with a house, but you have other considerations. You want convenience. You want to be able to walk to get the groceries. You want to be able to walk to transit. Figure that out. Shortlist the buildings. Then once you do that, you can actually ask your agent to tell you what's the history of sales in the last, let's say, 3 months, to give you the idea of the likelihood of the type of unit you're looking for to come to market. Because I've seen some people wait for a year to get a particular view or this particular layout or something or other. And in hindsight, they say, you know what, we probably should have taken that other unit. And if they had done their homework and looked at, what is the history of the building, they would have understood that. So really know what you're doing, because if you wait 6 to 12 months in this market, it's costing you $25,000, $30,000, $40,000.
So let's help our realtor listeners out there. What can they do better to help their clients when shopping for a condo?
Well, what they can do better is they can do all the research on their market area. They can already have it, put together in a package as we do, where this building was built in such and such a year. Here are the amenities. You know where they are. Understand where visitor parking is, and make your job easier as well, Mr. or Mrs. Realtor. Because when you're going to show the property, you don't want to be fumbling around under. Well, where's the pool again? So when I used to show a lot of condos earlier in my career, I had a spreadsheet for every building, and I knew exactly. Hey, the pool's over here. You get the key from security.
Because nothing's worse when you look like you don't even know where anything is, and here you are, like talking.
Just make the experience better for yourself and for your client.
All right, Simon, so let's go to the other side. What are some things sellers can do when they're putting their condo up for sale?
Oh, that's easy. Most people have massive furniture in their condos or too much furniture.
Okay.
You need to clean it up and empty it and declutter it. And, from a marketing standpoint, when you're selling a house, you've got a lawn sign, and that gets a lot of eyeballs. It actually gets a lot of traffic from the lawn signs and from all of that. With condos, not so much, right?
Right.
You also have to understand that marketing a condo is different, and make sure you're working with a realtor that understands how to market it. And we're talking now social media, more online marketing. The traditional direct mail doesn't work with that kind of stuff. So you need to get the word out differently. We have very creative realtors that have used large scale open house signs on the weekends. And even in some buildings that don't allow you doing an open house, what you can always do is put a phone number on the sign. Realtor takes the call and personally walks you in, because you can personally walk anybody in. But some buildings are security conscious, so they don't allow the traditional open house. There's ways around it, and you just need to make sure that your place looks great and that people can get info on it and see it easily and quickly.
Now, what about selling the amenities? How important is that?
Totally important, because, you got to ask your client if they care, because some people don't care. Do you want to see the amenities? Absolutely. Great. Know what you're talking about. Know the impact on cost.
And go for a swim.
And yeah, you could do that too. Yeah, I've seen that happen.
I bet you have. All right, last question before we wrap up. What is your opinion between buying resale or new condo, new construction?
Well, they're two completely different creatures. Resale, if you're buying for yourself, you can see exactly what you're buying. and you're buying at today's price, and it's trading on the open market. When you're buying pre-construction, you can sometimes get a great condo, but you're buying at a future value, and you really don't know the exact layout. And builders can actually change the layout on you. They can change finishes.
That lovely E&O statement, errors and omission. That means they can make changes at any time.
Everything is subject to change and availability, material, all that. So, there could be some surprises. I mean, in most cases, you're pretty much getting what you're paying for, but it's just a longer term. Also, you don't know how long it's going to be. 3 years could turn into 4, et cetera.
All right, but I'm amazed you didn't say that even with a new construction, bring in an expert, a realtor, because they'll get you a way better deal.
Absolutely. I mean, people think a builder's contract is not negotiable. It is.
Oh, and more importantly, it's all those little charges that we know to look for and make sure that they don't get passed on to you.
Closing costs can add up to $10,000, $15,000, and you can cap those.
All right, very good. Simon, great advice. And of course, we'll get more and more questions from our listeners, and we'll make sure that we also cover them as well.